Have you ever felt that you were clear in your head, but when you start to spoke, people looked confused? Hello everyone, my name is Madhu, and if you're new to my channel, then welcome to my channel. On this channel, I talk about communication. So, if you want to communicate with confidence, clarity, and self awareness, then you are at the right place. Now, coming back to my original topic, where I was telling you that, sometimes it happens to us that we are clear in our head that what we should say, but when the real situation comes and we have to speak in front of people, then people looks confused. And when such things happen, what we generally feel is we feel that people looks confused because I don't have the confidence. I don't have the confidence to speak well. That's why people looked confused. The second belief which we have is people looks confused because I am not good at English. My English is not good. That's why I'm not able to explain myself. That's why I'm not able to speak. And that's why people looks confused. The third belief which we have is I should use some difficult words or I should use some jargons, and that ways people will understand me. So those are the beliefs which we generally have, that if I am speaking and people looks confused, then this is because my confidence is less. I need to work on my confidence. My English is weak. I need to work on my English. Or I need some better words to explain myself. But here's the truth: communication is not only about English or intelligence, because English is just a medium. English is just a language. You can communicate in English or you can communicate in Hindi. So, those are just the languages. What you need to work on is self awareness. Self awareness is the first thing that you need to work on in order to work on your communication. So, the real issue is awareness, and I'm calling this as awareness instead of self awareness because this mostly consists of awareness about ourselves, but it also includes awareness about the listener. Now, what is this self awareness and how that basically impacts our way of communication? So, before we move on to how this impacts our communication, let's understand this and let's break this down into parts. So, there are basically four parts of self awareness which we do not notice and start speaking, and that actually impacts our communication. So, number one is how we feel. We start speaking without noticing how are we feeling. Are we feeling nervous? Second thing is what is the speed at which I am speaking? Am I speaking too fast or am I speaking too slow? Third thing is how am I sounding? That is, what is my tone? Am I looking too flat or my voice is going like waves, which is up and down, and my wave and my sound has an impact. And fourth thing is observing about the listeners, whether the listener are listening to me actively or the listeners are not listening to me actively. If they are listening to me actively, then they will ask questions, and if they're not listening actively, then they seems to be distracted, looking here and there. That shows that they are not the active listener. So when we starts to communicate or when we starts to speak, we should notice how we are feeling, at what speed we are talking, what is the tone at which we are talking, and how the listeners are reacting. So those are the four things which makes up the self awareness or awareness about communication. So along with the four which I just explained, there is one more, and this is over explaining. So sometimes we over explain, we keep on adding words because we are unsure that whether the listener have followed me or not. We are not sure that if I'm able to explain myself clearly or not. So we keep on explaining again and again, and that is also something which we should be aware of. So the five things that makes up the awareness are the inner state, our speed, our tone, and the way the listener are reacting. And fifth is if we are over explaining. So those are the five things you should notice. And if you're not able to notice these, then no technique will help you communicate with confidence and clarity. So this self-awareness or awareness is so important, and this is the first step to move towards a good communication. So now that you're already aware that awareness or self-awareness is the first step for a better communication, so let's understand or let's talk about how can we practice this awareness. So in order to practice the awareness, what you can do is for one conversation a day, just one of your conversation, what you want to do is in that conversation, you will not going to perform. You're not going to see that, I have to perform better. You're not going to do anything. What you just need to do is you just have to observe and you just have to become aware of these five things. So in that one conversation, where we will going to practice awareness, you will going to notice five things. You will going to notice what is the speed at which you are speaking. You will notice what was your tone while you were speaking. You will notice that how you were feeling when you were talking. You will also going to notice how the listeners were reacting. Were they listening properly or not? And you will also going to observe that did you over explain. So those are the five things which you will going to observe in one conversation a day, and that's how you can practice this awareness. So to conclude, the first step to better communication is awareness. You should be aware of the points which I discussed previously in this video, and in order to practice the awareness, you should observe the 5 points in one of the conversation in the day. And my dear friends, confidence is not built by forcing yourself. Confidence is built by knowing yourself. Hope this is helpful. Thanks for watching this.